In today's world, many subjects are taught in school, but are we transmitting to children values such as empathy, compassion, and peace? This film explores a series of experiments being carried out in different countries, where a pedagogical project is highlighting education for a culture of peace from the very earliest school years.
The concept of the schools of peace centers on human values: justice, compassion, love, respect, and solidarity, woven into the fabric of education. At school, we learn language, of course, but language is not just a tool for discussion or a way to win debates. Language is also a means toward mutual understanding, to understand others, build bridges, and make sense of things. How can we strengthen our humanity through language?
In this project, knowledge is based on values, where peace is placed at the heart of the educational process, at the heart of all learning, and it permeates all disciplines. Among these disciplines, language comes first, and a specific methodology is used for the teaching of languages in the schools of peace. In this way, in the teaching of written comprehension, children learn the basic concepts of the language and its keys. That is, the letters themselves, where a relationship is created between the children and the living letters, which have a name, just like humans. A body is represented by their geometric form, and a soul is represented by their sounds. Each letter accompanies the children on their path of learning throughout the week, like the beginning of a lasting friendship over several lessons. Knowing that each lesson has its own goal. First, the letter introduces itself and invites the children to listen to its sound, to recognize its form visually, and to learn its name. The letter says, "Hear my sound, look at my form. Here is my name." It then begins to tell its story through the oral comprehension activity. Then, it lets us hear its sound and invites the children to listen by using their auditory consciousness skills and by applying the linear phonetic methodology used in the teaching of the Arabic language. The following lesson deals with the phonetic correspondence, where the letter presents its linear image, explaining that it begins with a single point. Created out of ink and pen, it says, for example, I begin with a dot on the second line, and then I move down to the bottom line, and so on according to the design of each letter. At this point, we must not forget the preliminary steps that precede actual writing. By asking the children to trace the letter with modeling clay or in sand, the sense of touch is mobilized in the recognition of the new companion, for the senses are like windows through which the child finds connection with the outside world, and thus forms a link with their new friend.
The teaching model for this peace education aims to create harmony and balance in a child's mind. It focuses on three main ideas: peace with oneself, peace with others, and peace with the environment. These three ideas work together.
It is not just a question of acquiring knowledge or of achieving success. It is more a question of being and of fostering a human being who is balanced and serene, and who lives life in a tranquil way, following his path without harming anyone. On the contrary, he helps his neighbors and all those he meets.
Education is the foundation and structure of society. Peace education is an investment in peace and a way to solve conflicts. Now is the time to work towards a new way of thinking, one that will help us plant the seeds of peace in the minds of our children and open their minds to new possibilities. We need to show them a more realistic world, one based on respect, dignity, sharing, cooperation, and working together. We urgently need to fill our children's minds with these values so they can avoid the tragedies and terrible consequences of war, violence, and injustice that humanity has suffered so much from.
The third lesson is that the children discover the principles of living together and the culture of we through the telling of stories, which show that the letter cannot accomplish anything alone, but must be associated with other letters in order to form words with meaning. In this way, the child learns the importance of interconnection to create meaning. Letters become connections which intertwine their names and help to understand the noble meanings and connotations of those names. The letters accompany the children on their quest to discover the world and in the creation of peaceful relations with it through carefully devised and instructive playful activities through which they explore all three worlds: the inanimate world, the vegetable world, and the animal world, which symbolize their origins and inspire in them a natural respect for all these facets of creation.
Nature offers incredible opportunities for learning, for discovery, and for gaining self-confidence. For example, you can plant a seed by yourself, water it yourself, see it grow, and even have the feeling that you are not only close to it, but that if you make an effort, you will see it continue to grow in your hands. And I believe that if children learned that from earliest youth, they would remain connected throughout their lives.
I think that having class outdoors contributes to children's development. Everything they learn there comes naturally. Each time we go outside, all sorts of things happen. We discover ladybugs, we count the dots on their backs, and everything happens naturally. This interest, this motivation, and this involvement are all simply present.
I believe that through engaging with nature on a daily basis and by taking care of it, whether it be little plants or observing butterflies, bumblebees, or bees, one feels more and more an integral part of nature, and one takes better care of it. I think we must pay close attention to this.
We believe that it is very important to go on outings with the children, for this is the way that they enter into contact with the real world, and everything they learn there takes on real meaning. What I saw in my former schools was that we usually presented images of a cow or videos. But when a child comes face to face with a real cow, that is when they realize how much a cow can eat, how much manure a cow really produces, and how huge a cow truly is. This is how many notions take on real meaning. And also, at times, this helps to overcome certain fears, because suddenly the children have a broader perspective. I had one little girl who was afraid to enter the forest, and now we see her frolicking in the woods. Yes, I find this amazing.
At the School of the Universe in Muara Jambi, on the island of Sumatra in Indonesia, a workshop activity entitled The Mandala of a Plate of Rice was created. The children there eat a daily diet of rice, fish, and vegetables. However, through this activity, they discover that in fact this plate contains the entire universe, thanks to the mandala made of cardboard, decorated with drawings representing the different elements that make up their meal and their diverse origins. The children are able to visualize the network of interdependence and cooperation of all the beings and elements that went into making this plate of rice, thus symbolizing a harmonious world in which each being and each thing finds its rightful place.
China, piring itu datang ke Indonesia naik apa? Pesawat. Pesawat. Nah, bagaimana bentuk tulisan nasi dalam bahasa Cina? Oke, silakan.
Peace education uses different teaching methods, including the awakening game to otherness. The awakening game to otherness meets children's natural need to play and helps them discover the joy of interacting with others.
Cooperative games are a game of awakening to otherness, diversity. What does this mean? Either we all win together or we all lose together. There is this idea of being together, which means that we move from the philosophy of I, the egotistical self, onto the philosophy of us. Now we will win together. We can be the two of us or all of us, the group.
Wij werken op onze school met de cirkelwerking.
In our school, we work with the method of the circle. This means that we sit in a circle with the students and we open the circle activity with a moment of silence. This moment is signaled by a gong, followed by a minute of silence. This helps the children to express themselves concerning their work or their thoughts. I think this also contributes to inner reflection, because many questions come up. In fact, we use the method of the circle to facilitate all sorts of projects, and we close the circle in the same way, with a moment of silence.
Maar het doel is om uiteindelijk naar een soort van zelfstandige dialoog.
Our goal is to evolve in the direction of a sort of independent dialogue at school, which can be used to solve problems, to approach a particular subject or theme, to reflect more deeply on something. Thus, we use the method of the circle as a didactic tool.
Bij de cirkelwerking zijn er hele duidelijke afspraken.
With the method of the circle, the rules are quite clear. This means, for example, that you can request the floor by raising your hand, and that you must wait your turn. This way, even very young children learn to wait for their turn to speak. And each child knows, I will have my turn to speak in the circle, because everyone who wants to can share and contribute.
Want we zien de mondigheid. We zien dat kinderen mondiger zijn. Dat ze meer durven zeggen. Dat ze meer kunnen
We
zeggen.
see that the children express themselves clearly, that they have the courage to speak up and to speak their minds, as they hear others expressing their thoughts.
Dus hier wordt taal een manier.
They learn to find the words they need.
Wat er leeft in jou.
Language becomes a means of self-expression, of who they are, of what is alive inside them.
The children at the School of the Universe in Muara Jambi realize that in the circle, the first person is also the last. In the preparation of a meal, they distribute the dishes so that each child passes the dish he has received to his neighbor on the right, until all the children in the circle have been served. This illustrates the principle according to which the first and the last come together in the circle and favors the development of patience, attention to others, and fraternity.
It is the circle which allows us to return to this reality where all are one. The circle is a unit. The circle is an entity in which one and all will strive to participate, to build the network, this network of reflection, of camaraderie, especially for children. This helps them to build self-confidence. And it is not the teacher at the top of the pyramid who decides for the children, but it is with them. It is with the children that things happen. The teacher suggests and sets the tone of the circle in which the children themselves learn, and all this in synergy.
À la cantine,
In the cafeteria, a fight broke out between two students after a glass of water accidentally spilled on one of them, causing chaos. Some students climbed onto the tables, making a lot of noise, which was especially frightening for the younger children in kindergarten. In response, the students from my class spontaneously began singing the unicorn song, starting softly, then growing louder. The other students looked on, amazed and laughing, unable to fully grasp what was happening. I had previously explained that this song was meant to bring calm to the classroom, and now it came naturally to them.
How can we imagine that children in kindergarten can be mediators in cases of conflict when normally the mediator is the teacher? Not at all. When there was a conflict between two children from the middle section of preschool, naturally, a child from the upper section came and tried to reconcile them, and quite often successfully. It was the older child from the upper section who became the mediator. And we saw that sometimes as many as 3 or 4 or even 5 children would spontaneously intervene, and they often succeeded.
In a war, there are no winners or losers, only losers. How can we appeal to the conscience of every human being today? By saying that we must invest in living together in peace. There are academies of war. There are academies of all kinds, sports, football or rodeo, or anything else. But there are no academies of peace.
Another strategy used in this pedagogy is solution-focused learning. This approach shifts the paradigm from problem-solving to solution-finding. It teaches the child that difficult situations are opportunities to apply their knowledge and skills to overcome obstacles and foster continuous personal development.
Donc en mathématiques, on parle plutôt de résolution de problèmes. En fait, c'est de la résolution de problèmes.
In mathematics, we tend to speak of problem solving. Here it is also a question of problem solving, but seen in a positive light. Here we are not speaking about problems, we are speaking about learning to find solutions. This is our way of seeing things, our way of approaching a problem. That is to say that when we know there is a solution to be imagined, it is extraordinary. Just imagine what it might become.
C'est bon, on vérifie. 4 jaunes et 3 roses, c'est bon. 4 et 3, ça fait 7. 3 bleus et 2 roses, ça fait 5.
Starting with an activity to introduce children to the concept of numbers in the world of mathematics, Violaine will use flower petals to count the positive actions of each student in the class, and thus the flower will join the other flowers of the other students on a green wall that symbolises the meadow. This project teaches the child about common action with a universal dimension.
La fleur.
One flower, front and back, represents one student. On the stem is written the student's name. For each positive action, a petal is added, one after another. Once the flower is fully formed, we see it on the wall of the classroom, on a green field which symbolizes the prairie. The students paid very close attention to their names and the corresponding actions. This was especially in the beginning. Later, it became more natural, and by the end of the year, it was completely smooth.
By myself, I might go faster, but together we'll go farther. So it's magnificent, and I assure you, for children, it resonates. Maybe to us, it sounds like philosophy, but for a child, they see and already imagine the scenario. By myself, I'll go faster. I'll run because the others don't get it. I know how to do this, and it's true. I can go faster. Still, I will have to stop somewhere, but the others will get there too. Say, how is it that they all follow along with you? They are going to carry me, they are going to pull me along. And at some point, perhaps, where I might exhaust myself or lose hope, they will push me forward, and indeed, with them, I will go farther. So the I will become the we.
Empathy as a concept is difficult for kindergartners to understand, but they can grasp its meaning thanks to various supporting materials, such as visuals, like the prairie, or reading materials. It needs to be concrete for them to understand.
Enseigner, certains le disent, bon, c'est un sacerdoce. C'est-à-dire qu'on le porte
Some
toute sa
say
vie.
teaching is a vocation, meaning that it is something you carry with you your whole life, and this means always improving your educational techniques.
Et c'est pareil, en tant que
Obviously,
parent,
this has an extraordinary impact on the teacher's own life, and it is the same for parents, seeing their children more fulfilled, happy to go to school, happy to work, happy designing projects. Of course, this interests the parents, so they welcome it.
Le monde aujourd'hui se divise.
The world today is divided, embroiled in conflict and in wars. There were 11 wars at the beginning of the century. Now we can no longer count them. How much blood will have to be spilled before we realize that this isn't the right path? We need to find a way, to construct a way, to live together in peace, so as to at least give future generations a chance.
This pedagogical approach is rich and varied, englobing all the disciplines and areas of study taught in schools, from the sciences to languages, from ethics to art and sports. Education for a culture of peace can become an integral part of all educational programs, as it constantly unites knowledge with universal human values, above all peace.